Despite the unpopularity the Democratic Republicans faced at the end of Jefferson's administration, his protege, James Madison, was elected as the fourth president of the United States. Madison, who had been instrumental during the Constitutional Convention, inherited a complicated and messy relationship with England and France, and mounting tension within the United States. Madison continued Jefferson's embargo for the first 2 years of his presidency, realizing that trade was necessary for the betterment of the United States, and at the behest of Congress, Madison reopened American shipping to France and England, asking them once again to honor America's neutrality. Naturally, the capturing of ships and impressment of sailors began again, almost immediately. A group of young congressmen, namely two gentlemen named Henry Clay and John C. Calhoun, hounded the president for a stronger show of force. Known as War Hawks, Clay, Calhoun, and their faction demanded Madison to take a more militant stance toward Britain and France. Increased tension on the American interior added to the fire. British agents had been suspected of arming and supplying a native uprising on the frontier, and British troops still held forts which belonged to the United States. After British ships blatantly attacked American sailors immediately off of the American coast, Madison gave in to the War Hawks and asked the Congress to declare war on June 1, 1812. The American people may have been ready for war with Britain, but its army and navy were not. In 3 separate invasions of Canada, the United States was defeated and beaten back, with 2 out of 3 armies forced to surrender, although not without some success. One of the invasions had resulted in the burning of the city of York, the provincial capital in Canada. Naval battles fared much better. In one instance, the USS Constitution and the HMS Guerriere faced off in a swift naval engagement lasting less than an hour. The British were horrified to find that their cannonballs bounced harmlessly off of the Constitution's 22-inch hull. The USS Constitution would go on to wreak havoc among the British Navy throughout the war. Many native tribes had banded together under the leadership of the Shawnee chief Tecumseh and his brother Tenskwatawa or Lalawethika, known as the Prophet. Tecumseh's confederacy of tribes sided with the British in the last desperate gamble to establish control over the continued American expansion west. The British and Tecumseh's confederacy kept the American military at bay in Canada, where Tecumseh was ultimately killed at the Battle of the Thames in 1813. Tecumseh's death fractured the confederacy of tribes and ultimately drew them out of the war. The British, on the other hand, turned on the offensive and attacked American positions along the Chesapeake, aiming to capture the United States capital, Washington, D.C. In August 1814, the British successfully sailed up the Patuxent River, south of Washington, and landed troops who marched toward the U.S. capital city. A disastrous defense of the city at Bladensburg left Washington, D.C. open to attack and occupation. In the White House, Madison was forced to evacuate and watch the disaster from afar. His wife, Dolly Madison, realized that if the British captured the city, they would wreak havoc and likely set fire to the various government buildings. Mrs. Madison had her enslaved servant, Paul Jennings, take down and secure the famous copy of the Lansdowne portrait of George Washington, which hung prominently in the White House. Dolly's precaution proved prophetic, as when the British troops occupied Washington, they did indeed set numerous government buildings ablaze, including the still under construction U.S. Capitol, the Treasury, the Department of War, and White House. As the city burned, a well-timed hurricane rushed up the coast, putting out the fires, and in one recorded case, picked up 2 cannons and threw them several yards away, killing both British soldiers and American civilians. While the British had successfully taken and burned the U.S. Capitol, they were forced to abandon the city, as controlling it would not be possible without additional reinforcement, and the hurricane had severely damaged their fleet on the Patuxent River. Madison returned to the ruined capital and continued to prosecute the war. The following month, British naval efforts.
Hey, how's that New Year's resolution going?
What are you